Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Clavendi. I'm Cochrane's Support and Training Officer and am part of the support team, have been for the past 5 years or so. And I'm very pleased to introduce you to these new project management features in RevMan. A brief overview of what we'll be looking at today. I'll give you an overview of the features, how they show up in the RevMan dashboard, look at the milestones and tasks, which are the kind of the main part of the features that we'll show, and explain a little bit about our editorial lock. I'll then do a demo of these features in a Cochrane review on RevMan, and we'll have lots of time at the end for any questions that you may have. I do want to note up front that the specifics of these features that I'm showing today are relevant to users within the Cochrane organization on RevMan, but the overall functionality for tasks and milestones can be adapted for non-Cochrane users, customized to your organization's workflows and how you're producing your reviews. And more information on how to customize these milestones and tasks is available in the RevMan knowledge base. So an overview of these features for you. So in recent weeks, all Cochrane reviews have been moved to be managed in RevMan from our previous review management platform, Archie. And with this move, these new project management features have been rolled out for all Cochrane reviews. So you'll have been seeing them show up on the dashboard of your reviews in recent weeks. The features are designed to support Cochrane authors and staff as you're working on developing drafts for submission to Cochrane's central or editorial service. They're visible and available directly within the dashboard in RevMan, breaking down the process of producing a Cochrane protocol or review into key milestones and tasks. The process for developing these features was collaborative. We worked with colleagues in Cochrane review groups, also the review development editors and method support unit, among many others within the central executive team. So thanks very much for everyone that had input in developing these features and getting these launched. And just like with our web version of RevMan that we've had for a few years, we do want to hear your feedback as you're starting to use these features more in detail, so that they can continue to improve and be refined based on real user feedback. So this is kind of the initial launch, but we're very happy for you to share how it's going as you're starting to use these features. So as I mentioned, all of our project management features are visible within the RevMan dashboard. So just a screenshot here of the review I'll be showing for the demo in a bit. All authors on a given review can access the review by logging in with their Cochrane account at revman.cochrane.org. And I'll show that to you when we get going with the demo. And Cochrane Group staff can access a title from within their RevMan portfolio view. As I mentioned, the main elements of the project management features that I'll show today are the milestones and tasks, which you can see just below the status and action panels on your RevMan review dashboard. So what are the milestones and tasks? That's kind of everything key elements of producing your Cochrane review, that's broken down into bigger milestones, which are larger elements of review production work. So for example, selecting studies, and then within each of those milestones, it's broken down into smaller items that you would need to do, as you'll see here, for example, running a search in database and other sources, receiving the research results, etc., contributing to completing a particular milestone. As I mentioned, non-Cochrane users can adapt and customize these milestones and tasks within the portfolio kind of management aspect of RevMan. And the tasks and milestones were developed with collaboratively, as I mentioned, with expert input from the evidence synthesis development team and Cochrane review groups. Involved with the milestones and task functionality that you'll see on the dashboard, there are default deadlines that give suggestions and how for timeframes of how you might break down the work of producing a Cochrane review across a year, with the goal of having your review hopefully published soon within a year of running your search date, so that your the evidence that your review is publishing is current. And again, these deadlines, suggested deadlines, were informed by experts but can be customized within the system. And then with each of the milestones and tasks that are in our Cochrane project templates for this, there are instruction links that pull together different resources. So relevant chapters from the Cochrane handbook, relevant parts of our Messer standards, as well as Cochrane training materials. And these create step-by-step guidance for you as you're producing your review or protocol. So now that reviews have moved to be managed in RevMan, work done on these is broken down into projects. So we call the production of the protocol, for example, one type of project, and producing a review or update is a separate project. Each of these project types has their own sets of milestones and tasks within the project management features that I'm showing you. And the features include initial suggested due dates, but these can be customized based on your author team's own timelines of when you're doing work. And you can also break down and assign different tasks and milestones to different members of the author team. Because these features were just launched kind of en masse for all Cochrane protocols and reviews that are being worked on right now, the due dates and milestones are all kind of starting from zero. So because they were just launched, we're asking authors to complete milestones that you may have already completed in the past to bring your milestones and tasks up to date with the status of where you are in the review process. So seasoned Cochrane authors will be familiar with authoring and editorial phase in Archie. With the transition over to managing reviews in RevMan, the editorial and production lock replaces this authoring and editorial phase feature. So the lock is put in place automatically when a protocol or review or update is submitted to the central editorial service from in our editorial manager, so that the authors and group staff will have edit access when the lock is open. And then once it's submitted, the central editorial service managing editors will have access to edit and complete their kind of editorial review and peer review process for your review. When the review or protocol is returned to authors, so if a revised decision is made, for example, or at the stage of completing author proofs, the lock is automatically released, and authors and group staff will be able to edit and work on the review when the lock is not enabled. And just a look at what this looks like on the RevMan status panel dashboard. When the lock is open, there will be a green chip on the status panel. For example, when you're waiting to submit and are working hard on your review before submitting it, the lock is open and the due date for your submission invitation to the central editorial service shows up there, just to remind you of when your due date is set. When the review is submitted, there will be a purple chip on the dashboard and the lock will be closed, as you see here. And it will also show the version number that was submitted to the central editorial service. At this point, the review will be read-only for authors and group staff. as I mentioned, so the central editorial service managing editors can complete their editorial review. Then again, as you'll see when the review is returned to you, the lock is opened again and it's green. It will have the revision due. And similarly, if it's returned to you after acceptance for reviewing proofs, then this is the green chip will be present again. So now I'm going to go into a demo of these features, but I will first pause. Gert, do we have any questions that have come up in the chat yet?
No questions so far.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as a reminder for you how you can access your reviews within RevMan, all authors on a given review can log in. I'm showing on the training server, but you will log in at revman.cochrane.org with your Cochrane account to access the list of your reviews. You can click on the review that you want to see from your My Reviews tab here, and that will open the review for you to the dashboard. So with the new features that we've launched, this is what the dashboard looks like. You'll see here, for example, with this review that I'm showing, there's a submission due in late 2025, and the lock icon is open here. You'll be able to see kind of obviously this that I'm showing is within the Cochrane organization, and you'll be able to see the project status that I mentioned with either a protocol or review or update project in progress here. And the main kind of meat of our project management features, as I mentioned, is this milestones and tasks tab. At the top, we have these little hourglass indicators showing you the status of the different milestones. So if you hover over each one of these, you'll see the milestone name, the overall due date for when that milestone is due to be completed. And when these are coming up due, you'll see an orange icon. And then should the milestone become overdue, there will be a red exclamation point to say, hey, this is according to the initial 1-year timeline for producing a review, this is overdue. Within the milestones and tasks tab, you'll see each of the milestones has kind of a wider box with the tasks broken down within them. There's overall due dates for each of the milestones that are, as I mentioned, automatically set based on the timelines that our evidence synthesis development team suggested would be reasonable. These are also customizable as well, and I'll show you in a moment how to do that. Within the milestones for each task, we have these instruction links here. So if I click on this, for example, this will take me to the relevant task within the RevMan knowledge base, and the resources and guidance that we have available for how to complete this part of review production are here. So as I mentioned, a chapter from the Cochrane Handbook, for example, we have a link over to our Messer manual for the given tasks as relevant. And then we also have some links to Cochrane training resources. So for example, when you've received the search results, if your author team is choosing to work in covenants, you might wish to click on that and view this recording from a prior Learning Live webinar about moving data between RevMan and covenants. And there are multiple guidance links for prior webinars and resources for you to ensure there's instructions and detailed information about how we're hoping you'll complete each step of the process. So this is available for all of our tasks here. And so, for example, if we're writing about our methodological limitations section, we could click on that, open up, here's the methodological limitations section with multiple handbook resources and Cochrane methods reviews or links to direct the way that you would complete that work. Within each of these tasks, as I mentioned, we can set, there's a wider kind of milestone due date that is set, but you can set other due dates within each task to ensure that you and your author team are able to complete the overall milestone due date that's there. If I wanted to do that, for example, for title and abstract screening or for any of the tasks, there's a little pencil icon on that task within the within the milestones and task feature. We would click on edit task there. We have the name, and I can select a person within the author team. So every member of the author team will show up on this drop-down menu here. I'll assign it to myself, and thinking that, looking at the overall milestone due date, perhaps I will say I want to complete this by the 23rd of December. Click OK. And then now on that milestones and tasks tab, we see that new due date that I've set and that it's assigned to myself. We, at this time with these features, the RevMan does not send emails to members of the author team. So we recommend that you, as kind of corresponding author, as members of author teams, are telling authors, hey, I've assigned tasks and broken down this work on the dashboard. Please log into RevMan and view the milestones and tasks view to see which tasks are assigned to each person. For example, as you can see with this task, say that, this person is our information specialist who is running our search, and we have set a due date of today, for example, for this. And so that is why this icon here is in orange, because this task is imminently due. Should it not be marked as completed by that date, then that will turn into a little red tick box or a little red exclamation point. When a task is completed, for example, say, we've now run our search in our databases for this, we simply mark the little square checkbox here to mark as completed, and click OK. And then now this will be marked as complete, and green, our green checkbox there shows that task is complete. So as you're progressing, there will be more and more green checkboxes in the milestones and tasks view. Say, for example, we are coming to this review and we have actually already completed our study selection and populating our study data. You don't need to do each task individually. You can mark all of them complete by marking the whole milestone as complete. So if we do that, we click OK, and all of the tasks in that milestone will be marked as complete, and we can collapse that view there. So those are not visible. Say that after, we realized, oh, wait, we actually do need to, we have 2 more pending on our full text screening. We can click on the pencil again, the pencil icon, to reopen the milestone. It will ask you to confirm, because this will reopen there, and then once you've done that, individual tasks within this can be reopened. Again, with setting an assigned person and a due date or not, it's up to you. And this will then be, this task will be reopened so that it can be reassigned if we realize we needed to do it again. What if within your author team you want to kind of break this down even further? These tasks are all customizable, so you can, when you're editing them, you can change the name and set the due date. You can also add tasks within a milestone. So using this plus icon here, when you hover over, it says add task. We'll just click there. We'll say double check full text screening, for example. You can tell I am not a systematic reviewer myself, perhaps, with that. And we'll say, okay, that we want this due by the 3rd of January. And now this task will be here at the end of the list here, and it can be assigned. Obviously, there's no instructions available since I just created that task, but you can customize and add and task as much as you want. If you say, oh, wait, actually, we don't need that, we click on the little trash icon here and we'll say, okay. And then that removed that final task. And similarly, for example, further on in our workflow for preparing manuscript for submission, for example, say that we want multiple people from the author team to proofread the manuscript. We can add this task here and put, a due date. Say this will be I'm just making this up, in March, and we'll see the tasks that we've done here. Obviously, we might want this to be before we submit. And before we complete our pre-submission checks. So we can click and drag tasks to reorder them as well, particularly as you're adding different tasks to customize the way that you want to use these features within your author team. I did mention previously that these specific milestones and tasks are set up for reviews that are managed in the Cochrane organization, so Cochrane Reviews, but this functionality is available for all subscribers and users of RevMan, and you can set templates even of the different milestones and tasks that you want to have in place for your organization or individually as well. So this is quite customizable and meant to be easy to use. The final thing I wanted to mention with this part of the milestones and tests is, as I mentioned, reviews that have all been moved over to be managed in RevMan, as all Cochrane reviews have been in the last month, will automatically have the timeline set up to be for submission from 1 year of when the project opens. So that's the general timeline that is recommended from our experts. However, of course, since this was all set on the same date, for example, for a given group, these dates will not necessarily reflect your current submission due date. So you can please do have a look in your review, check on the due dates, adjust them for the work that your author team has already done, complete given milestones. For example, say we have all of our study data already in, we mark this milestone as completed so that all of those tasks are marked as completed up to where we are. Say that we're currently working on writing up our manuscript and we've completed our results, but we are writing the rest of the sections now. And so you bring this kind of milestones and tasks up to date with where your author team is. For reviews that are just being kind of created or started or open for authoring now, the default timelines are, of course, more likely to be closer to what the progress that the author team has made so far. But you can, at any time, of course, using these pencil icons, you can adjust the overall due dates for different milestones and tasks within this view for you. An additional thing I did want to mention and show for you here, particularly for Cochrane authors, is this decision log panel that we have on the dashboard here in RevMan. This is where kind of our interactions with the milestones and tasks, but also the interaction between RevMan and editorial manager becomes more visible, because we have different types of events that are logged here for your information. And so, for example, our invitation status to submit to the Central Editorial Service shows the invitation due date. If the due date is extended or updated at a different time, that will also show up as a new event here. And this due date is what shows on our chip on the status panel on the dashboard. Other types of events that show up here, for example, any changes made to the author team will show up here as well. You can see the date of when a project was started and closed, of course, if it is closed. You'll see revised decisions that are made by the Central Editorial Service here, as well as an accept or reject decision will show here as well. And then as you'll see, overall milestone completion and reopenings show up here on the decision log as well. Additionally, for reviews that are perhaps being worked on as updates or the previous publications with the DOI number, it will show up on the decision log as well. And then clicking on that link, you can open the review in the Cochrane database of systematic reviews. So this is quite a useful place to check in on the status of your review and if there has been activity from the Central Editorial Service in terms of editorial decisions or revise, or to ensure that you're aware of your submission due date on the chip on here and as well as on the decision log.